be it trying to keep them on the naughty step, putting an end to screen time, or trying to control a difficult child on the plane. We've all been there. One woman who might be able to help is with us today. I'm really pleased to welcome Director of the Parent Practice, Melissa Hood, to the show. So, Melissa, this is where I need help. I'd love to be one of those parents who manages to discipline their children without losing their cool, but I'm not sure I've mastered it quite yet.
Just to let you know, there's nobody who does that all
good,
the time.
Good.
You know,
I try.
We have moments when we can get it right, but nobody. There's no such thing as a perfect parent.
Okay. I've had a few of those plane situations recently. Thankfully, we're not going on holiday again this year with the children, so it's like I'm done with plane journeys. But you know what are the rules? A big question. But when it comes to discipline and keeping your calm.
First of all, I would say there aren't any rules because there's no one set way of doing things, and I think parents need to be encouraged to trust their instincts. But there are a couple of principles, if you like, that are very well grounded in science, but also that we've found at the Parent Practice really work in practice.
Okay, I'm all ears, tell me.
So, calmer parenting is the holy grail of parenting. Every parent aspires to being a calm
To not
parent.
go, really?
Exactly. And so there are 3 C's to remember, so it makes it easy. So the first one is sort of in line what Alexis and Becky were talking about. It's care for yourself. Because if you're not doing that, you're going to be triggered more easily by children's behaviour.
Yes.
You're going to have a knee-jerk reaction. You're not going to think about why they're doing what they're doing, but you're just going to lose your cool. And the second C is to be curious. And if you think of children's behaviour as being like the tip of the iceberg, that 10 to 15% that's above the water, and then what's below the surface is all the causes for that behaviour. So there's temperament, there's the developmental stage that they're in, there's what they're feeling at the time, and all of that is driving the behaviour. So unless you understand what's going on underneath the water, you're not going to be successful.
Okay, so care, curiosity.
And the third C is connection.
Okay.
And that's the sort of underlying principle for everything to do with parenting. Unless you're really connected to your child, and that means spending positive time with them, not chasing them to do their homework and to brush their teeth. And I mean, yes, you have to do that. But unless you're spending positive time with them as well, and unless you're giving them messages about how you appreciate them, you're not going to have very much influence with them.
That's such a good point. I find I get home from work, and the times when I get home a bit earlier and we spend a bit of time together, bedtime is less stressful.
Yes.
The days when I come home, take over from my nanny, I'm like, come on, do your teeth, have you done your teeth, have you done, you know, it just, it's like sort of snowballs out of control.
And we end up being such harpies. You know, nobody takes their baby home from the hospital and says, I'm going to nag you and scold you, and yet we all end up doing that a bit.
Yeah. Let's talk about rewards. I've had lots of mixed advice, mixed points of view on rewards. I'm quite up for rewards.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Let's be honest, rewards and bribes are very much part of the parenting repertoire. And we would say try and distinguish between the two. So a bribe is something that you offer in advance to entice your child to do something, whereas a reward is something you offer after the event to acknowledge that they've done the right thing.
And which is better?
And the reward is definitely the better.
So not if you go to school and get your spellings right, you'll get it.
So it's really better not to use the word if at all.
Okay.
So a much better way of saying it is when.
Okay.
So if you're going to refer to the reward in advance, it's when you've done your homework, you'll be able to watch some screen time.
Okay.
And if parents keep coming back to us and saying that little substituting of when for if really makes a big difference.
Okay, I'm going to try that. So you're okay with rewards?
Yes.
And is it bad to get, so one of my children had to see a speech therapist for a while, and we used to do a food reward, and I remember her saying on the NHS, we don't believe in food rewards. She was very anti it, but at the time I was dealing with a really young child, and that gave me the most kind of ammunition, if you like. He wasn't into screen time then.
Yeah.
Do you think food rewards are bad?
There are downsides to food rewards, because if you set up associations with food as being something you use to reward yourself, then that can be a habit that stays with you for life.
Okay, so what are good rewards?
Well, with little children, a little bit of play. I mean, we wouldn't play with them anyway, but you can also use that as a reward.
Okay. What do you think about the naughty step?
The naughty step is a big no-no.
Is it?
Yeah, most parents will tell you, when we've asked parents about their experience with the naughty step, they'll say it doesn't work. And they're often struggling to get their child to stay on the naughty step, and there's argument between them.
I know, I mean, I've got one now who's like, I'm not staying, I'm off.
Yeah, and the reason it doesn't work is partly because of the word naughty. But even if you call it the thinking step or something like that as well, it's still associated with, I've been bad, I'm a bad person. Okay. And when a child is feeling like that, they're not going to behave well.
Okay.
So we have to have them thinking of themselves as basically good people, and I made a mistake here. And that's okay, because human beings make mistakes, and I can fix it. I can clean up my mistakes.
So you're in a situation, and, you know, do your homework, whatever it is, pick up your toys, you know, and they won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do if you don't send them to the step? If you're not saying, if you pick up your toys, you'll get chocolate, whatever it is, a banana. What do? Do you send them to your room? I've heard that's bad because then they have negative connotations with their room. What do you do?
So all of those ideas are reacting to a situation. So we would always recommend that you be more proactive.
Yeah.
And that means setting things up so that your child is more likely to get it right.
Okay.
They are born with a huge impulse to get things right. You watch your toddlers when they were learning to walk. They didn't give up, did they? No. They wanted to get that right, and nobody expected them to get it right first time. So we need to keep repeating ourselves, yes, but actually, you know, if we do it in a nagging way, then they're going to tune us out. So
how do you do it? How do you do it? So we're talking positive praise.
Definitely use lots of praise, and we would say use very descriptive praise.
Okay.
So not the evaluative stuff that mostly we're used to, like good boy, well done, clever girl. That, it's not that it's terrible, but it's certainly a lot better than criticism, but it's not really going to have much effect.
So it's thank you for sitting at the table.
Yeah,
or
so it's much more detailed.
Yeah.
So descriptive praise does what it says on the tin. You know, you describe what they've done. So even if they've only taken a small step in the right direction, so you put one of your toys back in the basket, you know, that's a good step in the right direction. That shows me that you're willing to do what Mummy's asked you to do.
Yeah.
And even when you ask them to do something in the first place, if they look at you, then you can say, thank you for looking at me, that's really polite.
So trying to make it a positive situation before it...
Yeah. So you need to really focus on the small steps.
Okay. It's hard to be consistent, I find.
Yes.
What advice, tips do you have?
Consistency, sometimes referred to as the C word.
Right.
It's very difficult, and one of the things that will make it easier is when we are looking after ourselves. But also, if you think about a situation like you're in the toy shop and you don't want to buy yet another toy, and you're thinking, well, how can I be consistent about this? There are two things that usually stop us. One is that we're not necessarily focused on what our value is in that moment. So if you can be focused on that, then you'll be more successful. But also, the really difficult thing is, how do I deal with my child's reaction? Because they're going to have a temper tantrum, and they're going to be crying, and
when you're in public, I mean,
I'm embarrassed.
Do you give in because you're in public, or do you...
So just note to self, we never do our best parenting in public. So give yourself permission to be a human being, and not do it perfectly, but also try and remember who you're going home with. It's not the other people in the shop looking at you.
I had one time in a haircut where I had a child refusing to sit down and have a haircut, and got in, anyway, it just escalated, and I thought, I can't, this behaviour is not okay.
Yeah.
So I picked up the child, and I marched out of the shop, and I put it in the car. I'm saying it, not which steps it was, just in case they ever watched this back. And I was so angry, and I was like, do I give in, do I give in? And I had one friend who said to me, it's okay to parent in public, and actually other mothers will be gunning for you to do the right thing. And I knew it was the right thing to not give in, and I actually felt quite good.
Yeah.
I was quite calm, but I had to dig so deep, because it's hard when you're in public, and you know the eyes are on you.
I think one of the things that really helps is to think about what's below the surface of the water with our iceberg image. So what's going on for the child in the haircut situation? They're scared. In the toy shop situation, They want what they want, and they want it now. And kids aren't very good at controlling impulses because they have an immature brain. The part of their brain that deals with impulse control is just not very mature yet. So it's not surprising that they need support from us to be able to get a grip on their emotions and behave well.
So how do you go to a toy shop and not have, can I have this, can I have this, can I have that, you know?
Yeah. So first of all, proactively, you set it up before you go. We're going to the toy shop, we're going to buy a present for your friend whose party you're going to, and we're not going to be buying something for you today. And that might be hard, and I can understand that. And then when you're in the moment, if they do get upset, you can empathise, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not indulgent. That's showing them that you understand what it's like to be them in that moment.
Yeah. But how, in the moment where they don't listen, they still want everything, and how do you keep your cool? What advice do you give to mothers about keeping your cool? Because it's hard when you're tired and you're in a rush and you're trying to get things done. You just want to turn around and say, look, I said so.
Yes.
How?
And sometimes you will, so just, give yourself permission to be human. But what we're aspiring to is to be calm, is to think about why they're being the way they are. Because if you think that they're just doing it to annoy me, or it's their father's DNA, or something like that.
Nothing to do with my genes.
then you're going to lose your cool.
Yeah.
But if you can really think about why they're doing it and what it makes you think about, because when you see your child behaving badly, especially if it's in public, it always makes you think, well, I'm a terrible parent. I've brought my child up badly. And if that's your thought process, it's not surprising if you feel a bit powerless, and then you want to come down hard on it as a response to that. So you've got to check your own thoughts about why this child is doing what they're doing. They're doing it because they're 3 or they're 5 or and they're in that moment where they just want what they want and they can't see another way.
And how do you go to another gear? Because I feel as a parent it's important that you kind of do have a 6th gear that you only go to when they've really done something. I'm talking about a toddler here. I'm talking, I've got 6 and 7-year-olds.
Yeah.
And there are times when I need to go to a place where they've really behaved badly in public or done something really wrong, and I feel like I've really got to make the point now because that is not okay and I'm not having that behaviour. How do you get to that point without shouting?
Yeah, so without shouting is crucial. Discipline is a very important part of parenting. That's part of our job, to raise our children to know right from wrong. So whether it's in public or not, we have to deal with a situation effectively so that they learn. That's the entire point of discipline. Shouting really gets in the way of them learning because they just put up all the barriers and they close down. They're not listening anymore once we start shouting. So it's always better if we deal with it when we're calm. And sometimes that means taking cool-down time for ourselves. It's good to have them have cool-down time too, but then come back to it and deal with it when you're rational and when they're a bit calmer as well.
But how do you get them to take on board the severity of, I'm talking, this doesn't happen very often, but there are moments where you're like, I've got to nip that in the bud right now.
Yeah.
A child bites someone or take something from a shop, or haven't been there yet, thankfully. But, you've got to really nip that in the bud.
Yes, you do.
If you take things away from them, is that a negative thing?
There's no point in doing anything that's going to make them shut down. So if you approach it calmly, without anger, even without judgment, even though we're trying to teach them right from wrong, then we're talking to them about why that wasn't the right thing to do, what they can do about it, what can they do to make amends. Do they need to apologise to someone? If they had taken something from a shop, I did that when I was 8. My mother took me back to the shop owner and she made me return the item.
Mortifying.
Did I ever do that again? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But she did it calmly.
Yeah, clever. Yeah, okay. Can we talk about siblings fighting? Yes. God, I am in that stage. I'm really hoping it's going to pass. But I've got 18 months apart and it's like World War III. 70% of the time, probably. Yeah. How do you manage that? Because it is so draining all the time.
Yeah. I think one of the first things is to check your expectations. Because kids will fight with each other.
Totally.
And that's okay. But if you had a vision of your children just playing happily together, and it would always be, it's like in that house and garden scenario, and they'd all be lovely. then you're going to be disappointed. So expect that it's normal, but there are things you can do to encourage them to get on. And one of your biggest tools is using descriptive praise. So if you use it for the individual child so that they're feeling good about themselves, because they're much more likely to be nice to their siblings when they feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Like my middle son went through a stage of being really horrible to his younger brother because he wasn't feeling good about himself. He wasn't doing so well in school, and his self-esteem was low, and he was taking it out on his brother. And as soon as we had a concerted campaign of descriptive praise, he felt better about himself, and he was much nicer to his brother. And you can also use descriptive praise to notice when they're nice to each other.
Yes, I try and do that.
We tend to jump on when they're not nice to each other.
Yeah, when they're playing nice, I'm like, oh, this is so lovely. Do you see we're all having a fab time? And because you've done that, we're going to have a bit of extra.
And see if you can get really specific, like you lent your brother that
was really kind,
that he wanted. Not only was it kind, but he's more likely to lend you something of his.
Yeah. Descriptive praise. Okay. We're nearly out of time. We are out of time. But screen time, how do you turn it off without serious consequences?
It's always a problematic area, screen time. Again, you have to have rules about it. But your rules will work best if they're family rules, so that everybody is following rules of some kind, even if they apply differently, so that you have digital-free zones and drop-off areas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And for little kids, really no screen time under the age of 2. But beyond that, well, not
God, I got a 21-month-old looking at her siblings, desperate to
not
watch
consistent
Peppa Pig on a
screen
phone.
time, but occasionally is fine, but not a regular amount.
Yeah.
Between 2 and 5, under an hour probably a day.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the amount of time matters, but it's also the content. So what's so tempting for us as parents is to use the digital babysitter. And actually, that's not such a great idea, because it means we'll let them have
Yes, they're
more
better
time.
to sit down and watch a film or something than just
But they're
on
also
YouTube.
better to do it with us, because when we're there, they'll absorb it in a very different way.
Okay.
So that would be my top tip for screens for little ones, is watch it with them.
Okay.
Love all that be.
God, amazing. Well, Melissa, thank you. Such brilliant advice. For more information on the parent practice, then do visit theparentpractice.com. I have to say that I know lots of mothers who have been to your classes and your talks and your courses, and I know that they've had amazing results. One in particular who was really struggling,
So nice to hear.
you do some amazing talks. I saw the one on girls and friendships, and with a 7-year-old girl, girls are mean and
Can be.
really gets your heart. So I looked at that one with interest. So do check it out. Coming up, the Queen of Children.